Welcome. You are watching this video because you missed class either on December 1st or December 3rd. So I'm going to walk you through what you are going to do. Please email with any questions. We did map of the week, which I'll skip for you. We're talking about arguments and claims, taking a few notes, talking about free African American evidence before the Civil War, and then we had some work time in class. Things we're working on. Step 2 of our letter to a legislator. Yesterday we did the North and South pictures worksheet. If you didn't finish that up, you need to. And then we'll have a free African Americans evidence activity, and you just need to do step 1 of that, and I'll explain that later. Okay, so let's get started. A couple of goals in the next couple of weeks. One goal is that you're going to write the letter to a politician or the principal, and we've been talking about that. We're doing that in steps. And then the other goal is to create arguments about what slave life was like, what free African American life was like before the Civil War, and then what the arguments were to keep slavery at the time, because there was a lot of people who were very, of course, interested in keeping the institution of slavery and argued heavily to keep it. So we're going to look at some of those arguments. When we look at history, history is an argument of the past, and that's one of the things I love about history is I love arguing, and I love the information from history, and anything can be argued in history. So for instance, you could make claims like the U.S. was formed to create freedom for people. World War I happened because people loved their countries too much. The U.S. needed to annex Hawaii. All of these things can be argued for or against, and we can argue until our faces turn blue. And this is also an everyday skill, not just something that sits in the history classroom. If you get a cell phone bill and you're overcharged, you have to call up and make a claim and give evidence and reasoning why you're overcharged. Or if you're late to class, you're going to argue with me about why you're late to class and I shouldn't mark you tardy. So this is a skill that we use every single day. What we need to remember in history is that we're making claims and gathering evidence, but it's okay for this to be fluid. It's okay for your claims to change. It should change based on your evidence. So a couple of years ago, we did this huge World War I project I'm hoping we get to do in the spring. You probably saw it when you're in 6th grade in the library, and you make a claim and then you have to find primary sources to support your claim. And I had a student who made a claim that said that the World War I food for soldiers was great. So she started collecting evidence, and 2 days into research, she came to me and she's like, I have a problem. All of my evidence says that the food was horrible. And I was like, no, this is great. Change your claim. You want to go where the evidence takes you, and it's okay if your claim changes. The evidence is where you want it to be. So don't get married to your claim if the evidence changes. Go where the evidence tells you to. So we're going to work on that fluid thinking. So if you go to Google Classroom and you open your December 1st or December 3rd assignment, depending on what your class you are in for today, you will see a sheet that looks like this. Okay. So what's going to happen, and you're going to have to pause the video by yourself, but I'll explain how to do this. You are going to be making claims. I'm going to show you a piece of evidence, and then you're going to put your claim down. So let's do that first so you know what I'm talking about. So here's your first piece of evidence. Okay, make a claim about this guy and type it right here. Okay, and pause the video when you need to, and now make a claim using these 2 pieces of evidence. Your claim is probably changed. You need to refine it. You need to add to it. Put it right here. Okay. Here is your 3rd piece of evidence. Okay, make a new claim right here and pause the video when you need to. And here is your 4th piece of evidence. Now make a new claim. And what you'll see happen is that your claim changes from here to here the more evidence that you have. And that's a good thing because you're taking into account that evidence and making your thinking more fluid. So we're going to do this 3 times. You're going to put your claims in. Just pause the video to type in your claims as you go. So here's your second one. So I'm going to show you the pictures. You type in the claim here. You get a couple for this first one. Second claim. Third claim. Okay. Now you're on to the next one. Create your claim. New claim. Last claim. Okay, make sure you're typing your claims in these boxes. That's what I'm going to be checking for. All right, here's your last one. First claim. Second claim. Third claim. Fourth claim. This one's actually from the temperance movement. This lady's was called Carrie Nation. Well, that's her name. That's not what she was called. And she used to go around and hatchet up liquor barrels to get rid of liquor. This is liquor pouring out of the house. So these are women fighting against liquor. They felt it was kind of the dredge of society and caused all crime. Okay. Next, we talked about in class what it means to be free and some ideas people came up with. You can do what you want to do. You have rights and you can make your own decisions. You don't have to do things against your will. And so when we talk about life for African Americans before the Civil War, we split them into groups. So we have enslaved people who are people that were in the system of slavery. And then we have free African Americans, so a black person not in the system of slavery. We also have the term emancipation, which means to become free, and then manumission, to free somebody from slavery. So you need to go to your sheet and you need to type in these definitions at the top of your sheet here. Okay, pause the video as you need to. So free African Americans, sometimes when we think about life before the Civil War for African Americans, we immediately think of slaves, but there was large populations of free African Americans in the country as well. So I'm going to show you some pictures of free African American families, so you can have that in your head. And they were not part of the slavery system, so they'd have jobs to support themselves, although not all jobs were open to African Americans at the time. Not all schooling was open to African Americans at the time. Here's a map of the population of African Americans in 1850, so about 10 years before the Civil War, and you can see heavily populated in the South, although there was African Americans all over in the states of the United States. And then we can compare that to the population of free African Americans. So like if you look at South Carolina, heavily populated with African Americans, but then you look at the percent of free African Americans, the African Americans in South Carolina were slaves, whereas in the North, those were free African Americans. So as you can imagine, although they were free African Americans, their life was not completely free. And so that's the next thing that we're going to look at. Okay, so I've given you snippets about what life was like for free African Americans. There's about 6 snippets. That, okay. And then I've given you claim. We're only going to do step 1 today. My claim is free African Americans were not totally free. And so you need to collect 10 pieces of evidence to support this claim that they weren't really free. So we're going to do the first one together. So it says free blacks in Mississippi place themselves at great risk if they failed to have in their possession a certificate of registration. They ran the risk of seizure or even jail. If blacks were unable to establish their free status within a specified period of time, they could, as allowed by law, be sold into slavery at public auction. Free black certificates of registration were their single most important source of documentation. I can think of nothing more scary than being a free African American and then having the constant threat of being kidnapped and sold into slavery. Okay, so in Mississippi, remember my claim is African Americans were not totally free. Mississippi, ooh, can't spell. had to carry a document saying you were free. Okay, I would say you're not a truly free person if you have to carry around and tell people it all the time. And then the other thing, there was a threat that they might be sold into slavery. That would mean they were not free because you're constantly worried about if you're going to be sold into slavery or not. So you need to find 8 more pieces of evidence from the snippets and write them in the boxes. And that's it. So let me know if you have any questions, and have a great day. I lied. I just want to go through and make sure you know what you're doing. So these are the things that you need to work on. Step number 2 of the letter, you can find that under the November 13th letter to a legislator. If you didn't finish the North or South pro-con or North or South pictures activity, you need to do that. And then this, what I just explained to you, the Free African American, step number 1.